Knicks Nation, today is Wednesday, the 7th day of August, 7th day of August 2024. I hope you're safe and healthy today. Hope your family is safe and healthy and that the needs of you and your family in terms of food, shelter, clothing, as well as health are being met today. Blessings upon those that work in the healthcare field, along with the first responders who every day are trying to save lives. Those also that pick up garbage, keep our places clean, and those that make deliveries for our convenience. Double blessings on the men and women out here trying to help, rescue, deliver, and recover. The teenagers and children that are the victims of child molestation and pedophilia. People that are also victims of pornography and child pornography, prostitution, child prostitution, human trafficking, and sex slavery. Double curses on the perpetrators, the profiteers, and the perverts that create the demands for these industries. Finally, double blessings on the homeless. Nearly 600,000 men, women, children, senior citizens, veterans, families, homeless in the United States of America, and millions around the world in similar or worse conditions. Blessings upon them, for theirs is the kingdom. So today I want to discuss, now that we have lots of time until training camp, and we all can't wait until training camp, I want to discuss certain metrics that we can see that have been proven and that we can expect for the Knicks. For example, today we're talking about the importance of the combination of continuity and depth. Okay, generally speaking, as you look, for example, I'm looking at the world champion Boston Celtics. Okay, generally speaking, you want at least 8 guys that are going to play at least 60 games. Okay, appear in 60 games. That would basically be your rotation. If you can get 9, that's better. We'll compare Oklahoma City in a second, who was the best in the league at this last year. But the Celtics, for example, had 8 guys that played at least 60 games. And then there was Kristaps Porzingis, who played 57. Now, if you know, those next couple of guys are the guys that you're going to depend on when your regular guys are not able to play, generally because of injury. Now, injuries happen every year to every team. Okay, so again, Oklahoma City was the healthiest team in the league last year, but generally speaking, injuries happen to everybody. The question is, how do you weather those storms? Generally, they're not major, they're minor, but you must weather them, and that's where your depth comes in, and also the continuity of guys that are playing together and used to playing together and know each other. That also, of course, is huge. So last year, the Celtics had 8 guys, which are Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser, Jason Tatum, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jrue Holiday, Al Horford, Luke Cornett, and then, of course, you got Kristaps Porzingis. So that was their rotation last year. They got contributions from O'Shea Brissett, and that was their biggest bench. I mean, outside of their regular rotation. Now, O'Shea was their 10th guy. So then you also want to see how many of your starters can play at least 60 games. And in the Celtics case, again, they had 4 of their 5 starters play at least 60 games, and KP played 57 games. And of course, again, Al Horford comes in big for them. Sam Hauser comes in big for them. These guys come in and start, not a lot of games, but they started in absence of regular starters, and they were the NBA champions. If you look at the team they played against, the Dallas Mavericks. Look at last year with the Dallas Mavericks. So with Dallas was some story last year. I mean, again, someone asked me, who's the better player, Luka Doncic or Jalen Brunson? And I was laughing because Brunson's a great player, and he has worked harder than most people that play the game. And that's saying something because the NBA is full of hard workers. But Luka Doncic is a generational talent, God-given talent that could just, he's a maestro with a ball, and he just knows how to play, okay? And so that's not fair to compare him to like Jalen Brunson, who's really, again, a really good player, even great, but it's mostly, Brunson is hard work that he has put in, tremendous hard work that he has put in. Luka can just roll out of bed and ball. There's guys like that, okay? So last year, the Dallas Mavericks only had 5 guys that played 60 games. Kyrie Irving played 58. And so then they got contributions, important contributions from Josh Green, who played 57, and Derek Lively, as we all know, who ended up starting for them in the playoffs, played 55. And then you got Grant Williams played 47 and so on. But really, those were your guys, your 8 guys that played. Dante Exum also had a decent year, and he played 55 games. Now, the reason they were able to do so well is because you had Doncic, who was age 24, playing 38 minutes a game. Okay, so he's 24. He's not going to be able to do that forever. But at age 24, he can. Okay, and of course, not only that, but he averaged 34, 10 assists, 9 boards. That's what you call prodigious talent. Okay, so that's why they were able to get where they got. And they got enough in 58 games from Kyrie Irving to help them out. Now, they're not going to be able to do that again unless they got help, which is why now they've added Klay Thompson and Quentin Grimes. And they subtracted Tim Hardaway. So both Grimes is going to come off the bench, probably Thompson starts, and you're going to have both of those guys, hopefully for them, if they want to win, play at least 60 games. Okay. And then, of course, you're going to have, injuries. So you're going to have, like, Quentin's going to get some starts. And, Klay Thompson, you're hoping that he just starts and plays 60 games. So you're going to, that's why you want to have a 8 or a 9-man rotation. Now, Oklahoma City is the exception. Some people would look at them as the rule. That would be foolish. They're the exception. They're not the rule. So Oklahoma City last year, Oklahoma City loses last year in the conference semis to Dallas. Now, Oklahoma City, if you look at their 60 game rotation, they had 10 guys that played at least 60 games. But then there's a huge drop off. It's Holmgren, Wallace, Giddey, Dort, Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins, SGA, right? Jalen Williams, Kendrick Williams, and Jalen Williams. So J-Dub, J-Will, both of them played at least 60 games. So you had those guys, 10 guys playing 60 games. There was a big drop off after that. After that, the next Lindy Waters played in 38 games. But see, then as far as their starters, they had 5 guys play 60 games. So Jalen Williams, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Dort, Giddey, and Holmgren. Okay, so now we know this year they're not going to have Giddey, but they got a better player, in my view, a guy that's more win now this year in Alex Caruso. Yeah, Caruso. So they're going to be tough, and so they generally use 10 guys, but they're pretty much the only team that does that. Everybody else is usually between 8 and 9 guys. Oklahoma City is the exception. So that's the exception. Now with the Knicks, this is interesting. So last year, and this is why I'm excited about this season. Last year, the Knicks had 5 guys, only 5 guys that played at least 60 games. That was Hart, DiVincenzo, Brunson, Hartenstein, and McBride. Those are the only 5 guys that played at least 60 games. After that, there was a drop-off, and then there was a trade. And so we know Precious Achiuwa played 49. Julius Randle played 46. That was a big loss, as we know. But with that, they still went into the second round and went 7 games. Okay? And as far as starters, they only had 2 starters, Brunson and DiVincenzo. That's it. That played 60 games as starters. That's it. Brunson and DiVincenzo. Now, let's compare that to the year before where they won 47 games. We know they lost to Miami in the second round, and we know that they did a gentleman's sweep of Cleveland. Juju got hurt. That was a big loss. Now, the difference between then and now, Juju gets hurt, we still got Josh Hart. Juju gets hurt, we still got OG Anunoby, hopefully. Juju gets hurt, we got Mikal Bridges. We got backup, Okay, we got backup, and then you use McCall if you needed to at the 4, and you could bring in DiVincenzo. You got a lot of backup. Okay, that's the difference as far as depth. Okay, and then of course you got the continuity. But the year before, just as an example, where they won 47 games, the Knicks had that year. They had 8 players play 60 games, and then Mitchell Robinson played 59. So you basically had 9 guys playing 59 games. Well, at least 59, close to 60, 8 playing 60. And that was your rotation. It's Hartenstein, Quickly, Randall, Barrett, Grimes, Brunson, Obi, Deuce, and then Mitchell Robinson. That is what you had. As far as starters, you had 4 guys play 60 games. And then a 5th guy, MitchRob, playing 58. See? So, and they won 47 games. It was basically Juju's injury that derailed the Knicks that year, as we know. But again, that is mitigated this year because of the depth. Because you got OG Anunoby that can play 3 or 4. Because you got McCollum that can play 2, 3, or 4. Because you got DiVincenzo that can step in and play the 2. You got Josh Hart that can play 2, 3, or 4. Mitigate. Okay, big time mitigated. So the continuity along with the depth tells you just the Knicks are in really good shape coming into this season. And again, with respect to the rotation, look at the guys that play 60 games. And over the last couple of years now, 2 years ago, Randall, he's still here. Brunson, he's still here. And those are the guys Randall, Hartenstein's not here. Quickly's not here. Let's go. Randall's still here. Brunson's still here. McBride is still here. Mitchell Robinson is still here. So that's 2 years ago. And then last year, of course, as far as we just went over that. We went over that again last year. So let's take a look. Last year's team, guys that played at least 60 games or appeared in at least 60 games, McBride, Brunson, DiVincenzo, and Hart. So you got at least 4 of your guys. That's your rotation guys coming back again. And then you add to that, of course, we know Achua and Juju. We expect him to be 60 games this year. You got Sims. You got Mitchell Robinson. So this team, the depth and the continuity are going to be huge, huge for the Knicks coming into this season. Again, you got backups. Now, the major injury risk for the Knicks is Jalen Brunson. If Jalen Brunson was to miss the season, they would start Deuce McBride. I know some of you don't like that, but they would start Deuce McBride, but obviously, and they would have to depend a lot on other guys. And it's possible they could, they'll be a playoff team. It's not like they lose and they'd be a 500 team. Like Milwaukee loses Giannis and they're a 500 team or less. Okay, there's some teams that just can't afford. Denver loses the Joker, they're a 500 team. If the Knicks were to lose Brunson, I think they'd be better than the 500 team. They wouldn't be a championship team, but they'd be better than the 500 team. Okay, they'd probably be still top 7 in the East without Brunson. That's how deep this team is. Okay, whereas again, Philadelphia last year. Philly, put it this way, I've been in his MVP year, okay? This is Joel Embiid. He played 66 games. That was his MVP. That was the year before last. That was his MVP year. Last year, and this is they're going to depending on this guy, okay? Last year, Joel Embiid appeared in 39 games. Now look, Paul George appeared in 74 games last year. Okay. Tyrese Maxey appeared in 70 games last year. Okay, he missed 12 games. Joel Embiid appeared in 39 games this past season and 66 games in his MVP season. And so they slapped together a bunch of guys. Again, there's very little continuity with Philly. They slapped together a bunch of new guys, and they're dependent on a guy that's their main guy that can't stay healthy for more than 66 games. I'm not worried about Philly. I'm not worried about Philly at all. I'm just not. We ain't got no problem with Philly. I'm gonna tell y'all right now, you ain't got no problem with Philly. The year before his MVP season, Embiid played in 68 games. I think if you look at him, like that, the year before they had 7 guys that played 60 games. Then Shake Milton and Isaiah Joe, who's no longer there, played 55. So I ain't worried about Philly. I'm not. See, I don't consider. I think they're overrated. I really do, especially for them to be successful. Yes, Paul George is gonna ball. Tyrese Maxey gonna ball. But I'm gonna tell you, they're gonna need Embiid for more than 66 games if they're gonna be successful. Okay? If Brunson was only a 66 game player, we would have problems. I mean, but the Knicks would still be better, but we would have problems. Okay? We need Brunson for 70 games. Okay, we need Brunson for 70 games. And even though Brunson takes a lot of punishment, he takes a lot of charges, but his game is not predicated on athleticism. He likes to play physical. Okay? He plays on the ground level, and he likes to play the game in a physical manner. This past season, he played 77 games. Okay? 72, 77 is about his norm. And he is in his prime. So, we hope, we get that again. That's the stabilizing force for the Knicks. Every team has a major Achilles heel. If Boston was to lose Jason Tatum, they'd be better than a 500 team. With the team they got, they'd be better than a 500 team, but they wouldn't be a championship team. Okay, they would not be a championship team. If Cleveland was to lose Donovan Mitchell, they'd be a little bit better than 500. That's it. Okay? Every team has an Achilles heel. Every single team, especially the best team. If Minnesota didn't have Anthony Edwards, forget it. Forget it. Okay? If Oklahoma City didn't have SGA, they'd still be a solid team because they're deep. But they wouldn't be no championship team. Okay? They'd be a solid team. I think they'd be better than 500, but they wouldn't be a championship team. Look what happened to Memphis without John Moran. Okay? Lottery. Okay? Lottery team. So the Knicks need Jalen Brunson. But if we lost Juju, it would be a major loss, but they'd still be in contention. If we lost OG, it'd be a major loss. If that was our only loss, we'd still be in contention. You could just put McCall there, you start DiVincenzo, and you keep rolling. Okay? And they would. That's the thing. If we lose Mitchell Robinson, and you got to go with Jericho Sims, it'd be tough. They'd still be in contention. They'd still be in contention. See, the Knicks are so deep, and they have so much continuity. Like I said, Hart, DiVincenzo, Brunson, McBride, and now you got Precious, who's now, he got that half a year under his belt. You got Mitchell Robinson, who's been with the team. Julius Randle, who's been with the team. And now you got OG, who's got that half a year under his belt. The Knicks are going to be rough this year. They really are, especially if they stay relatively healthy. Again, the major health piece we need is Brunson, and he's pretty good at staying healthy. He gets banged up, but he's going to be there. It's not like he's going, he's a guy that's going to get an ACL because he jumped somewhere and landed wrong. That's not his game. He's not that type of guy. He's not dependent on athleticism. Anthony Edwards, for example, is dependent on athleticism. Okay, he really is. Depending on speed and athleticism. As is Tyrese Maxey. Brunson's not that guy. Okay, he's not. Like Jimmy Butler's not that guy. Jimmy Butler's more savvy, guile, tough, strong, smart. He's not dependent on athleticism for his success. Neither is Jalen Brunson. So we got a really good shot of Brunson playing at least 70 games. We got a really good shot of Randle playing, because Randle's norm is about 70 games. Last year was an anomaly. Randle usually plays 70 games. And so really the question mark is, again, OG. Of course, Mikal Bridges plays 82 games. So we can count on him for 70. So now OG and MitchRob. And again, I mentioned this before, I would not be surprised if we saw Mitchell Robinson for less than 28 minutes a game. I would say 25, 28. I would say 25, really, because then, you got Jericho you can put in there for 8 minutes. And you also, of course, got Precious, who command the second unit for 20 minutes. So If that's a key, if we could do that and have him appear in more than 80 games, 25 minutes a game, then Knicks in good shape. Like last year, Mitchell Robinson appeared in 31 games, 25 minutes a game. Okay, year before that, when the Knicks won 47 games, and MitchRob personally destroyed the Cleveland Cavaliers. Let's see what happened that year. I think MitchRob played. Let me see that year. MitchRob played 59 games, and he was playing 27 minutes a game. Like I said, he could cut back a little bit, and I think we'd be in good shape. He can cut back a little bit. That's up to Tibbs, but Tibbs is smart. Tibbs is smart. Some of y'all get so caught up in trying to think you out coaching Tibbs, you don't even. Anyway, Tibbs is smart. I wouldn't be surprised if he made that adjustment, because that's a huge adjustment. It's a slight adjustment, but it's a huge adjustment for Mitchell Robinson. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he did that. Now, interesting thing, Precious Achiuwa, in his last full season with Toronto, he came off the bench for 55 games because of their injuries, and he played 21 minutes a game. I wouldn't be surprised. He's the type of guy that can appear in 82 games off the bench and play 21 minutes a game. I wouldn't be surprised at that. He could do that. I think that's adequate for him. I think he could do that. So it's not unrealistic for the Knicks. The only question is OG and Mitchell Robinson. Those two guys are your biggest question marks. Juju, I don't think is a question mark. I mean, nobody else. There's nobody else on this team. I mean, when you look at the rotation, Mitchell Robinson, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, Precious Achiuwa, Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, Deuce McBride. That's your 9-man rotation. And again, at least half those guys have been in the rotation for over 2 years. If you know Tibbs, that ain't changing. Okay, that ain't changing. I had somebody come up to me, well, I think Deuce is going to be the 10th guy. Y'all need to stop taking drugs. For real. Deuce has been in the rotation for the last 2 seasons. And he's going to be in the rotation this year. 10th guy. Anyway, don't get me started. But that's part of the continuity. So you have guys that know Tibbs' system, play his style, know how to play together. And so all of those guys I just named is only OG and Precious that are your new guys, and only OG and Mitchell Robinson are your real injury question marks. Those 2 guys. Now, they're going to miss games. No question. Like I said, every year, every team has guys in the rotation that miss games. It just happens. Like I said, if you can get your starters to give you 60 games, you're doing something. The Knicks, the year before last with Quentin Grimes, they had 4 guys get them at least 60 games, and then you had Mitchell Robinson get them 58 games. I think if we could get that, if we can get 60 games out of 4 of our 5 starters, okay? And to me, obviously, again, the weak links are OG and MitchRob. If we can get 60 games out of them, and both of them, to me, put it this way. Typically, this is what Tibbs does. He plays the starters between 7 and 9 minutes a quarter, depending on how the game is flowing for the 3 quarters. Then he comes back in the 4th quarter and decides what group is going to be out there. He favors the starters, but they don't always. He usually have a bench piece in there, or maybe 2, depending on how the matchups are and how the game is flowing with the squad he's got out there. But generally, let's say he plays guys 8 minutes, 8 minutes, 8 minutes. That's your starters. That's 24 minutes for the starters, okay? With MitchRob, I would play him 7 minutes, 7 minutes, 7 minutes, okay? And now you got 21 minutes, and you decide how to use them if you need to use them in the 4th quarter. That's generally how it goes. So generally, Deuce McBride will come in for Brunson. Brunson will play between 7 and 9 minutes, depending how the game is going. And say it's like 8, and then Deuce comes in for 4, and then he'll do that. And then, of course, you have Deuce switching to the 2, and you had some other guy come in at the point guard, or he'll play with DiVincenzo. He's done that, and that's how Deuce gets 21 minutes a game. And then the 4th quarter, depending on the situation. The 4th quarter is always depending on matchup, foul situation, and how the group is playing together. Tibbs is big into how the group is performing, and it's night to night. But generally, what happens is over the course of a 30-game period, you start to see the same guys pretty much in the fourth quarter, because now he's decided who are his closing guys, and he'll do that. He does it pretty consistently. Nothing is absolute with him. He might change it depending. Like, I've seen fourth quarters where he didn't play Julius Randle down the stretch. And then there's fourth quarters, of course, most of the time, he'll play Julius Randle down the stretch. It depends on how things are flowing. So, and that's, again, where the depth comes in. That is Tibbs, he has got multiple options in the fourth quarter. Multiple options. Too many. So, we're going to be in good shape. We're in good shape. So, the depth and continuity of the Knicks is what, in my view, makes them a top 2 team in the East this year. And we'll see, but that's why I'm so excited, because we got at least 8 guys that are going to give you 60 games. At least, we may have 9 guys that are going to give you 60 games. That's your rotation. Okay. Yo, enjoy your Wednesday. Go Knicks. Shalom.